So how are GOP lawmakers really feeling about the president's tariff threats to Mexico? And would they actually hold a disapproval vote against the president's move? Let's bring in the Senate Judiciary Chairman, Republican Senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. Great to have you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a lot of talk about what happened today behind closed doors, Republican senators having a conversation about this. Where do you stand?
Well, tariffs would be tough on the economy, but the border is broken. It needs to be fixed. And if tariffs is what it takes to get Mexico to do better on their side of the border, I'm all for tariffs. Trump's not the problem. Mexico's the problem. Republicans are not the problem. Democrats won't vote to change the laws. Now, why do we have 1 million people coming here from Central America? They know that if you read a card claiming asylum, you're entitled to a hearing. It takes 3 or 4 years to get a hearing. We don't have enough bed space, so we let you go. So all you got to do is claim asylum. I got a bill that says you have to claim asylum in your home country, Mexico. No longer can you claim asylum here. We ship you back if you try to claim asylum on our soil. And if you bring a small child with you, we can't send that child back. We're going to change that law. 90% of this will stop. But Mexico provides buses to these people. Mexico is doing better, but I'm not blaming President Trump here. I'm blaming the Congress because we can't do our job, and I'm blaming Mexico.
Okay, well, Senate Minority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer, says that the president is to blame for this mess that's happening around the border.
He's the one that said it was a manufactured crisis, too.
Well, this is also what he says today about whether the president means it or not with these tariffs. Here's what he said.
President Trump has a habit of talking tough and then retreating, because his policies, often his tough talk, can't be implemented or doesn't make sense. President Trump has a habit of proposing asinine and dangerous policies before backing off.
He doesn't think the president will do it.
Well, here's what I would tell Senator Schumer. The president destroyed ISIS. He's taken China on for the first time ever in a very effective way. He's got Mexico's attention. They're here in town tomorrow, and I'm going to meet with the foreign minister. Here's what I would tell Senator Schumer. This is not President Trump's fault. President Trump didn't create this problem. Our laws are broken. As long as you can claim asylum in the United States and never be deported after you make the claim, they will come forever. We're on track to have 1 million people come over this fiscal year. We've doubled in 2019 the problem we had in 2018. So Senator Schumer and my Democratic colleagues are fixated on President Trump. It's Mexico and the Congress that needs to up their game.
Well, let me ask you, do you think Congress would vote, and whether it's veto-proof or not, and a lot of people think it would be, a resolution of disapproval against the president if he does this?
Here's what I would tell the president. I hope to talk to him tomorrow. Ask Mexico to do 2 or 3 things that they're not doing that would matter. Help us make sure you apply for asylum in Mexico or Central America, not the United States. Stop giving them buses to get to our border. A few things you could do would help the problem, and if they'll do those few things, we won't do tariffs. But if they refuse to help us, what options do we have? Tariffs will create economic problems, but the border is a complete, utter disaster. I'd hate to be the Republican that took Mexico's side on this deal if they won't help us.
Well, you know, they say they're worried about the impact on American farmers, consumers, all of that. But I want to, before you go, I want to make sure that I ask you about this. The Attorney General, when he was before Congress, you asked him about whether he had concerns, as you did about the origins of the Russia investigation. He is looking into that. Today, here is what the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Democrat Adam Schiff, said about the Attorney General.
He is not the sophist that Giuliani is. He's much more dangerous. And I think he's the second most dangerous man in the country for that reason.
I don't know who's number one. I could guess who he probably thinks. What do you make of this, though? Them saying that BARR has completely mischaracterized the Mueller report, that Mueller's testimony or his little announcement, press conference, not really press conference, but his announcement disproved what BARR had said, the characterization.
When Adam Schiff speaks, you shouldn't listen. He's the guy that saw a Russian behind every tree. Russia did interfere in our election, but Trump didn't collude with the Russians, but he told us he did. Mueller said no, he didn't. So he's the Oliver Stone. He's the chairman of the Oliver Stone caucus. The Democrats in the House have lost their mind when it comes to Trump. The Mueller report is done. It's over. No collusion between Trump and the Russians. But Adam Schiff will not stop until he destroys this presidency. Here's what I think. There's going to be a backlash to that kind of thinking. Bill Barr is one of the finest men I've ever known. He was Attorney General on Bush 41's watch. He has some of the the best credentials anybody to ever hold the job. He's a good man. He's not the problem. This insane desire to destroy everything Trump is hurting the country. They won't work with Trump on a border wall, even though they supported it when Obama was president. So I just disagree with Adam Schiff that Bill Barr is dangerous. What's dangerous is to accuse the president of a crime he didn't commit.
Well, the investigations apparently will continue, at least on the congressional side for now. And as we know, the Attorney General has investigations of his own. Mr. Chairman, thanks for dropping in.
Thank you.